And once you've been in town, you never come back.
Be warned, ye who enter here. The following footage is extremely disturbing and contains references to all types of stuff, one of the most prevalent being like SA-related things. So if that triggers you or bothers you, do not watch this video and go peruse other videos on my channel. Thank you for watching. Let's get into it. It's no secret that I am a fan of transgressive or extreme art, especially when it comes to horror. In the last year, I made a 40-minute long video about a Serbian film and multiple videos about body horror movies that I like. But while I think there is value in extreme media, and while I find it very interesting, like anything else, it is subject to opinion, criticism, or adoration. Using the example of a Serbian film, that movie features very extreme and disturbing content, including CSA, and my video about it argues that the film doesn't really utilize the tools at its disposal, opting instead for really cheap shock value that's not intrinsically tied to anything and has no point. The director of the film said the movie is intended to be political allegory, and halfway through a Serbian film, there's a very heavy-handed speech that is intended to or supposed to tie this knot between political allegory and what you're seeing on screen. Except, in my opinion, it doesn't, and that's what my whole video was about. The movie doesn't serve the director's intended purpose, and that's why I don't like it as much as maybe something like Salo, which does the political allegory thing much better. And I think that the director of a Serbian film is lying to you when he tries to pass off his film as some elevated political allegory. Daniel, why say all of that? Especially when in the past little while, people new to my channel over the last month or so have been commenting saying that I yap too much, or I look too deeply into things that aren't that serious. Well, I think that us, you and me, being on the same page is important. This channel, the entire channel, is about transgressive media. I don't have a problem with extreme violence or shock content. If you clicked onto this video with this title, hoping to find trying to pave a moral high road for you to safely traverse in peace over the stinking, bloated corpse of someone else's disturbing art, I think I need to warn you that we are actually going cave diving tonight and emerging covered in muck and grotesque slime. I'm excited. I'm very excited. And if you are too, even with everything I just said, then by all means, join me, come with me, let's do this, I'm excited. UrbanSPOOK is considered by some to be the most controversial analog horror creator. At least within more mainstream circles, I can imagine that there's more extreme stuff out there. I haven't heard of it though. This series, also known simply as The Painter, is an analog horror anthology series loosely connected by a main plot thread, and I want to watch it with you, see what we like about it, what I personally think doesn't work, and also cover the drama that ensued from it. So welcome to the rise and fall, and potential rise again, of the most controversial analog horror series. Buckle up. The first video sets us up not in the video itself, but in the description. I just started converting VHS tapes to digital, and I found a bunch of tapes in the basement of my apartment complex. This was on one of them. We open with white text on a blue background simply saying, "Warning, the following footage may be disturbing to some audiences," as many analog horror series tend to begin. 6 months ago, police found 3 paintings stored away in an abandoned storage area, each titled after recent murders. The first victim was Carla Gray, found with 36 stab wounds to the face and all her teeth removed. On the back of the first painting, the title Carla's Teeth, and then we get the ominous words, "This is the painting." Oh my. Let's continue. The second victim was Jackie Graham, found drowned with 27 stab wounds in the perineum. That sucks. She was alive during the stabbing. Her painting is titled Floating Jackie. This is the painting. Almost serene looking. I really like the red. Last victim was James Miller, found with his face torn off and his wrists slit open. This serial killer is not playing around. Autopsy showed that James was alive for several days without a face. That's horrible. Jesus Christ. The third painting was named James's Secret Face. This is the painting. And here we see this hideous, bulging eyeballs, and it looks like the person is holding the mouth into a smile. I don't totally understand how someone would survive being like this for multiple days, but, maybe. And that's going to be a recurring theme. We're going to be told something about this horrible murder or killing or this torture experience that happened, and then it's going to say, this is the painting. Then you wait a second, and then it shows you some super grotesque, very distorted, over-the-top, bizarre imagery that is intended to be a artistic representation of the victim's corpse. And since the series is titled The Painter, I'm going to say that it's safe to assume that the person painting these pictures is the killer. 2 months later, several more paintings were discovered. However, the titles of these paintings do not seem to be connected to any known cases at the time. Here are the other paintings and their titles. Wax Doll Tom, Lisa's Secret Face, Hanging Jimmy, Fuck Toy Corey, Daniel After the Fire, oh no guys, Jennifer's Last Stare, and Scream Maggie Scream. After going public with the case and sharing the paintings in hope of saving anyone that may be depicted, the police received 3 photos in the mail, all of them also titled. The photos appeared to depict the victims James Miller, Jackie Graham, and Jimmy. This is James. Jesus. Here's Jackie. Damn, the coloration is really disturbing on that one. And this is Jimmy. If anyone knows anything about these photos or paintings, please contact, and then there's a phone number. One final painting titled Self-Portrait was found 2 days ago. This is the painting. I really like how menacing the eyes are. All right, so that's the first video. The next video in the series is titled The Lighthouse. Again, we open with viewer discretion as advised. Then a title card. 4 weeks ago, a police officer named Bill Collins went missing, along with his wife and 2 daughters. Bill had previously discovered this painting in his home, clueless to how it could have ended up there. And remember, that one was called Self-Portrait earlier. Interesting. While searching Bill's house, the police found one of his daughters hanging by the neck from the ceiling in the attic. She was only 2 months old. The Collins family's car was found 12 days later by the ocean side. In the car, the police found a painting titled Long-Necked Angel. Angel was indeed the name of the youngest daughter found in the attic. And this is the painting of Long-Neck Angel, which is super horrible. Like imagining like the body hanging for so long that the neck kind of gets distended or elongated even. The search would lead to an old lighthouse standing just a few miles away from the abandoned car. The lighthouse hadn't been in use for several years. On the door to the lighthouse, an abstract face was painted in red. I wonder if this is the painting. Weird. Inside, the charred corpse of a missing teenager named Daniel Williams was found. My boy Daniel Williams got got. I wonder what he looked like after the fire. Police later proceeded into the tunnels under the lighthouse, as there often are tunnels under lighthouses. We all know this. Here, the police would find 2 more corpses belonging to Jennifer White and her daughter Lisa or Liza White. They had been missing for 7 months. Lastly, the police found a moist barrel emitting a foul stench, almost like Moist Vagina by hit rock band Nirvana. The barrel was filled with mangled meat and bones. Tests later showed that it belonged to the rest of the Collins family. The tests also showed extreme volumes of amphetamine. Photos of the Collins family moments before death were found scattered around the barrel. Here are the photos. Oh my. So what we could say is that they are all goth. Lastly, there was a fourth photo depicting an unknown face. My favorite thing so far is obviously the art. The story itself kind of feels like a vehicle for the art more than anything else. And I'll tell you more about why I even have that thought in my head later as we get more information about this creator. But we found the bodies belonging to multiple paintings from the previous video: Daniel, Liza, and Jennifer. But what's specifically interesting is we are being led to believe that the killer makes these paintings of the victims. But if that is the case, then why is there a self-portrait? Is that really a self-portrait? Is the painter also the killer, or are they separated? Who knows, you know? Okay, so far I haven't seen anything that crazy. I guess it's messed up that we used a 2-month-old child for part of this. It's messed up for sure, and sad and violent. And while the art is cool, the writing is just whatever. It's like, this happened, and then this happened, and it was even worse. And then this person died, and then this person died. But is this it? Why was this series so incredibly controversial then? So much so that I still hear people talking about it in hushed tones. Before we get any further, I would like to warn you that as it continues, the videos get more and more graphic and violent, almost to the point of parody. And that ended up getting heavily criticized, which, as you'll see, it makes sense that it got criticized. But there's actually a bit of spicy drama that you might have missed. There's a YouTuber that I like who covers a lot of horror stuff as well, scary games and whatnot, named Postra. And Postra made a post on Twitter saying that their biggest hot take when it comes to analog horror is we need to stop praising series that rely entirely on shock value to carry their horror. Stuff like UrbanSPOOK drives me nuts because the only horror, in quotes, it has relies entirely on trying to describe the most vile thing possible with little else. And there's more to it, but I want to nitpick on this for just a second. Postra has a massive platform, and at the time Urban was only a few videos into the series. So on one hand, I would like to examine the wider critique, which is series rely too much on shock, specifically within analog horror and digital horror. And then I'd like to ask you, dear viewer, can you name a single other large creator in the analog horror space who is making shock content? Like, there's quite literally no one else doing extreme grindhouse or splatter punk in analog horror. It's very different. Like, God forbid there's something other than possessed animatronics or corrupted public service announcement, or it mimics your behavior. That was true then, and it is still true now. So while this opinion is being framed as a genre-wide one about the state of analog horror, it's really only true for one creator, the one named in the post. So on the other hand, I think that there are times where it can be irresponsible for large creators with, a massive following to punch down on small artists, especially when it's like, especially in this case where it's like I'm gonna frame it as a larger genre criticism and then it's literally only applicable to the one person. But regardless of that, the idea that Urban is primarily using shock value in their work is definitely the correct idea. Okay, so now I want to ask you, stay with me, I want to ask you one more question. If you were the artist behind an intentionally transgressive and extreme piece of media, how would you react to people being grossed out by your stuff? This is more a rhetorical question than anything. If you make art intended to disturb people, people being disturbed should mean that you've done your job. It should be something of a badge of honor. So, what do you think Urban's response to this was? You're such a fucking pussy just because extreme horror doesn't fit into your little autistic furry horror taste doesn't mean that there isn't a place for it. Use your platform to talk about things you like instead of shitting on actual creators. Cunt. So, aside from using the word autistic like a slur and telling someone to only talk about things that they like, someone who I'll add has been outspoken on negative elements of other things that they've covered in the past, as well as been known to say over and over and over again that they literally look for the good in everything that they watch and play. This response from Urban is just stupidly hilarious and obnoxious coming from the edgy extreme horror artists, right? Like, I'm not crazy. In my opinion, the discussions that ensue from thought-provoking and messed up art is a big part of the point, and this response is not only mean-spirited and awful, it's also just, it's tasteless, and the temper tantrum doesn't end here. It seems to extend into the creative world that we're currently traversing. So get ready for that. The next one is called In the Walls, and unlike the previous episodes, which began with a warning, this one does not. So it's likely that this video is going to be less graphic than the others, which is kind of disappointing, but whatever. So far, I haven't really seen anything that awful in the series. It's almost like the backlash was overblown. God, I regret everything. DJ Sorrow. I regret everything I've done. We open with Corey Beck and Margaret Beck, obviously siblings, both aged 11. 10 days ago, the Beck twins went missing. I'm a loser, baby, so why don't you kill me? 5 days later, their bodies were discovered inside an abandoned paper mill factory, likely place for them to be. However, the state of the bodies were found in a gruesome condition. Only the upper body of Margaret and the lower body of Corey could be located. The twins' bodies had been sewn together in a sloppy manner. The rest of their bodies have still not been found. Margaret's neck and jaw was broken in several places. A clay brick had violently been shoved down her throat. Jesus Christ. The word meat had been written on the brick. So this is the first instance, probably not the last, of this series trying to like allude to, like, I kind of wonder if this is an attempt to depict one thing but get around it through by like tricking YouTube and being like, no, it's actually it was a clay brick with the word meat on it, guys. That's, you don't understand. Corey's genitalia had been removed by pulling force. The way everything is worded is so silly, dude. 1 week before their disappearance, Corey had been dared by two of his friends to spend an hour in a remote cabin near Tiger Lake. Allegedly, Corey went inside alone with his digital camera while his friends waited outside. After just 4 minutes, Corey ran out screaming that he had seen a face. According to his friends, Corey's left arm was badly bruised. While investigating the cabin, police found a wardrobe connected to a crawl space inside the walls. Corey's camera was found on the floor inside this open wall cavity. This is what was on the camera. Here we go. Here we go. Then we are shown a montage of blurry gray and white imagery, culminating in another face. This face is believed to be connected to the disappearance of Corey and Margaret Beck. If you recognize this person, please contact. And then we have another phone number. So as you might notice, the series continued after the drama nonsense, but it did start to seem like Urban was so offended by the criticism that they started making the videos more graphic on purpose. There's no way to know for sure if that's true, but it really does come across like that, and then it kind of course corrects a little bit later. So we've learned that the character previously referred to as Fucktoy Corey was in fact an 11-year-old boy. Holy fucking shit. Like, it's so disgusting. Also, the brick with the word meat on it is disgusting. One other thing that I don't totally understand is the timeline of events. It's either that the killer has been planning the killings in advance, with the paintings, like painting what they want to happen and then going and doing it, or that first video is like a recap of everything that has happened up to a point, and then each video that we've been watching since then is like building up to that moment. Otherwise, I can't really reconcile the Corey and Margaret go missing 10 days ago with all those paintings being found 2 months ago. Now, the next video is called The Clue. Private investigator Sean Kane have been helping police to locate victims connected to several paintings. Okay, so we've got a named investigator character now. I wonder if the story will continue with this as like the main character sifting through the clues and the remains of these poor people's bodies. Let's find out. The last body he found before his disappearance, god damn it, was the body of Tom Harris. Okay. I should have known better. The killer had climbed the drain pipe up to the 3rd floor and entered Tom's apartment through his bedroom window. In the living room, a pile of hardened candle wax was found. What else does that look like to you? Inside this pile of wax was the body of Tom Harris. The cause of death was suffocation from the wax. One thing that this series has going for it is the like saw kills that are happening are very fun. Like they're super nuts, very over the top and just ridiculous. And the creativity on display here is quite interesting. Also, really quickly, apologies if I seem tired. I ended up coming back to, like, I started recording this, then something happened and I had to take a stop for a minute, and now I am back at 5 o'clock in the morning because I have to be somewhere in like 2 hours. So if I sound a little like I have sleep voice and seem a little more bleary-eyed than usual, even though I already seem bleary-eyed all the time, that is why. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Tom's arms and eyelids had been cut off. Why the eyelids? What is that? A 3rd arm could be found inside the pile of wax. We still do not know who this arm belongs to, or if he just had 3 arms. And here's a picture, or a painting, of Tom Harris being melted into the wax. 1 week later, investigator Sean went missing from his home. Neighbors of Sean notified police after hearing his dog bark for over 9 hours. How does the dog sustain barking for 9 hours? I don't know. I mean, unless it's like supernatural, like a ghost. You know how in a lot of horror movies that include the occult or the supernatural, you'll see animals reacting very negatively to the presence of like evil spirits or ghosts or stuff like that. It's another example of this series constantly being like, he was stabbed 37 times. The dog barked for 9 hours. Inside, police found a horrid scene. Ah, damn. Now I understand why the dog was barking so long. The dog's legs had all been broken. Although dehydrated and suffering, she was still alive. Wouldn't it be kind of funny if the cops had found a dog leg in the pile of wax and just thought it was like a 3rd human leg and couldn't tell the difference? Blood trails could be found leading from the bedroom to the kitchen. The only clue police could find was that Sean seemed to have deliberately painted the number 2 on the door frame with his own blood. Inside Sean's bedroom, police found a new titled painting, clearly resembling Sean. This is the painting, and its title: The Man in the Pipes. I'm sorry, guys, I don't mean to laugh. The paintings are very cool. They're just like, they all have very like big, almost like fish eyes, and they generally look like caricatures, which makes them feel very over the top, almost like a meme image. It's both disturbing and also kind of silly. I like it a lot. In fact, the art has been my favorite part of the series. The different paintings and stuff is the most interesting part. The perpetrator had entered Sean's house through the basement. Luckily, Sean had a surveillance camera installed just a few days earlier. Even though the camera had been destroyed, it still caught a photo of the perpetrator. All right, so now we're going to see the killer again. This is the photo. And oh boy. So this time it seems like a celebrity who notices the paparazzi's trying to photograph them, so he goes like that. Me when I'm in a new metal band and they're asking me to take a photo. It's interesting that pretty much every face reveal of the killer has looked very, very different, at least to my eyes. Okay, so the private investigator is probably gone. That's my assumption. I should have known when they decided to name a character that the character was going to immediately die. But what's interesting here is the number that was painted on the wall, number 2. Earlier, I wondered if perhaps the painter and the killer were two separate entities, and the number 2 could be the beginning of like an address or a phone number, or it could signify that there is multiple people involved with these murders, which would make sense because there are just so many murders happening. Next up, we have the witness. 3 days ago, Tina Rosenberg was reported missing along with her boyfriend and younger sister. Her boyfriend, Jack Stryker, wanted to take Tina on a South Coast road trip for her 20th birthday. Imagine your last name being Stryker. Flora Rosenberg, the youngest sister of Tina, was also invited for this road trip. It was nice of them to include her, I will say. Then we get a lineup: Jack, Tina, Flora. Jack's car was found 2 days ago in the woods. Thankfully not in the ocean by a lighthouse. There were signs of struggle inside the car. There was also a painting. God damn it, not again! Flower face Flora. It feels like the painter keeps trying to be cute with the names and like make little jokes or sarcastic remarks. Character's name was Flora, flower face, you know. It's a bit of character, I will say. It adds a bit of character. While searching the car, police heard screaming from deeper within the woods. Police followed the screams until they found a grisly sight. Tina was found, tied to a tree with her feet and arms cut off. She was still alive and conscious. The mutilated corpse of Flora Rosenberg could also be located. Is this the first time that we've found a conscious human at the scene of one of these crimes? That normally has not been happening. Flora's head had been smashed in with a hammer. I really like the distortion effect that makes the picture kind of duplicated into multiple layers on top of each other. It definitely gives the appearance of someone getting forcibly smashed in the head over and over again with a hammer. So, well done. Tina told the police that the murderer was still around somewhere. However, no one could be found. Again, potentially paranormal stuff. Who knows? It could be. After escorting Tina from the scene, the police returned to the car and found another painting. God damn it, we didn't leave any cops at the car. You know, if we had multiple police, we couldn't have one stand guard. Now there's another painting in the car. Or maybe it was already there and they just missed it the first time. Typical. The painting had just been put there. Never mind. The title, Long Jack, had hastily been written on its back. And this is the painting. Why the long face? Jack has still not been found. In Tina's own words, this is what happened that night. I remember waking up in the car. Jack was gone, and I could hear someone approaching. Next thing I remember, I was tied to that tree. I was injected with something. I could hear my sister screaming. She was screaming for our mom. Oh, Flora, I don't know. I remember whispering, and her face. Oh, God, her face. This is a police sketch of the murderer based on Tina's description. Almost an amalgamation of most of the other pictures we've seen of the killer so far, just with hollowed out cheeks, like sunken in, high cheekbones, if you will. Very high, impossibly high cheekbones. Okay, so with this one where the killer, I mean, I guess the hastily titling it maybe points in a different direction, but the fact that we had paintings of these people that were killed just hours prior, I don't know. I'm starting to think that the painter is like stalking or following the characters beforehand, and has been planning these murders kind of thinking them out in advance for a while, and that's where the paintings come from. And then they try to like mimic the paintings. Mimic. Something that I've seen people criticize about this series is actually one of my favorite things about it. The fact that it's really just text and pictures. Textures, sound design, which I haven't really touched on, but the sound design is pretty cool in a lot of these, and just this brutal, psychotic storyline with really cool art. In my opinion, there is a power to the simplicity without jump scares or these long extended sequences. Pretty much every video is less than 10 minutes. The few we've covered so far are actually like 2 or 3 minutes long. Each reveal of the next horrific thing that the killer has done or will do next creates this tension. Even just the text, this is what they saw, or this is what the painting looked like, and then it like holds for a second. That's this series' equivalent of a jump scare. And that repetition creates tension. I'm like some deranged Pavlov dog, knowing that just after the text, more evil pictures will appear. And my favorite part of it all is the very tasteful violence and the respectfully conveyed stories about different kinds of abuse. From here on out, I guess YouTube caught on to the like content of these videos because most of them have an age restriction. So yeah, that's fun. This next video is titled Pics. Former police officer Ian Ford and his wife May were recently reported missing. When police went to their farm to investigate, they found an awful stench coming from the barn. Inside, they found the brutalized corpse of May Ford. She had been handcuffed to a pole inside one of the stalls. However, her hands had been ripped right off. Even though her body had been badly mangled, tests showed that she died from internal bleeding. A dead horse could be found within the same stall. The cause of death was heart failure due to a sildenafil overdose. What is that? Sildenafil, sold under brand name Viagra, is a medication used to treat erectile dysfunction. Holy shit. And so they're saying that the woman died from internal bleeding, and there's the corpse of a horse that had Viagra in it in the same stall of the farm. Wow, guys, that's crazy. Something interesting is that Viagra can be taken by injecting it into a vein, so earlier we saw people getting injected, and we also, I forgot about this, but there was people found amphetamines at the scene of one of the crimes, if I'm not mistaken, meaning that the killers are doing a bunch of drugs. Okay, this one's really fucked up so far. Let's continue. Inside the milk house, police found a bloody mattress. Sildenafil citrate was found scattered around the mattress along with used bandages and packets of penicillin. Someone had been sleeping here for some time. The decapitated head of the Ford's granddaughter was found wrapped in a blanket. This is the head of Fiona Ford. The worst smell of all came from within the second stall of the barn. Several faces were found nailed to the walls inside of the stall. And that rhymed. And also, I'm going to stop for just a second because this is making me feel kind of sick. The thing with the horse is really horrible. And this is actually a pretty perfect illustration of what I was talking about, when to some degree it does feel like some of this stuff was the invention of someone who was offended by people saying that their work was too extreme, and then trying to think, what's even worse than what I've already done? I mean, it's definitely horrible, it's definitely disturbing, and it's making me feel horrible, so that it completed its intended purpose. Yippee, congratulations, let's go. Yeah, some of the faces belonged to previous victims, malformed beyond recognition. The two henchman characters, one short and one tall, in every single movie with a villain ever made. There were also several decapitated pig carcasses. In the middle of the stall lay an abnormally large pig. Its belly had been sliced open and then stitched together again. I wonder if there's a body in there. Stuffed inside the pig carcass, the police found the corpse of Ian Ford, of course. That's super gross. The pig's eyes had been cut out and replaced with the eyes of Fiona Ford. Inside the tack room, police found the rest of Fiona's body, along with several disturbing paintings. These paintings depict Fiona, Ian, and May, along with an alarming amount of other victims. The images are very disturbing, be warned. And this is the first time we've been given a warning before looking at the paintings. First, we have Breeding Mount May. Little on the nose there, but again showing the kind of idea of what a joke is. Wet Skin George, the Jigsaw Baby, Ian the Pig, Blowhole Isabel, and it looks like Isabel might have a hole in her forehead, which, you know, a blowhole, you get it? Hide and Zeke. Oh, Painter's got jokes now. Fantastic. I mean, I guess I kind of appreciate how the humor of the series adds these moments where it's like it's so disturbing that you feel sick to your stomach, and then it's like, and then this painting was called Hide and Zeke, and you're like, ah, God. Four Holes Fiona, Breathless Janice, Fleshhead Fred, Tina the Witness, Observing Paul. If you know who any of these people could be, please contact, and then there is a phone number. A heavily damaged tape was found in the mud outside the barn. Even though the tape was almost completely destroyed, police were able to recover some of the footage. This is what was on the tape. So one thing, there are sections throughout the video that seem to have Morse code spelling out I am Bill Collins. So if Bill Collins shows up, I'm not pointing any fingers, but something interesting about the sound design that I mentioned earlier is that with each new entry, the music has been getting louder and more aggressive and angrier and just more crazy. The music's really good. But it feels like it's definitely ramping up in intensity. Okay, the next video is called Family, and it is by a lot the longest one so far. It's like 6 minutes. Over the past few days, there have been numerous gruesome murder reports. One of the victims was the elementary school teacher, Isabel Jackson. Isabel called 911 in the midst of her attack. However, the address she provided led the police to a completely different crime scene. The address belonged to a family of 3. Janice, Paul, and their son Zeke. Hide and Zeke. They were expecting a daughter in just a few months. Right outside their home, police found a bloodied garden shear. What awaited the police inside the house was so shocking and repulsive that one of the officers requested a period of leave from duty the very next day. Janice and Paul's bodies were found in the kitchen, both ruthlessly executed. The fetus had violently been cut out from Janice's stomach. Janice was then strangled to death with the umbilical cord. Just to nitpick for a second, how else do you cut something out of someone's stomach other than violently? Paul was found dead a few feet away from Janice, tied to the kitchen counter with his mouth sewn shut. And I guess, did he have his eyes pried open too? Do I remember from before correctly? The fetus was found in pieces scattered all around the house. During the autopsy, they found the head of the fetus shoved down Paul's throat. He died from asphyxiation, choking on his unborn daughter. Zeke is still missing. Okay, I need to, again, take a break for a second. Yeah, wow. Wow, Jesus, dude. Let's continue. Inside the house, there was also a painting. Its title had been painted over, except for the word pipes, like the man in the pipes. This is the painting. It looks like jelly almost to me. Police later managed to track down the real address of Isabel Jackson, though they were far too late. The headless body of Bruce Jackson was found right by the open front door. He had been stabbed in the chest 7 times. Where one would expect to find his head, a painting lay in its stead. It was titled Infinite Maw Bruce, and this is the painting. A real infinite maw we have here. Obviously, his jaw was elongated. Isabel was found murdered inside the bathroom. The lock to the door had been completely destroyed by a hammer drill. Ugh. Isabel suffered multiple skull fractures and a hole was drilled directly through her frontal lobe. A rolled-up note had been put inside of the hole. The note read, "I live where I can't breathe, and I eat without teeth. what am I? And a few of the comments under this video pointed out that the potential answer for this, especially with Blowhole Isabel, was the word whale, and that the painter or the serial killer was commenting on the lady's weight, which, again, I feel like that fits the MO of the killer, just to make, gross jokes. That's, yeah. Anyone else really want the killer to be caught already? To be like, go to jail forever, or have one of the investigators just find him and then, like, pow, 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 A pivotal clue emerged at the crime scene, unraveling new possibilities in the investigation. The presence of 2 sets of footprints in the blood suggests there was more than one culprit. Aha! I knew it! The police now firmly believe that whoever is behind these paintings and murders does not work alone. As for why Isabel gave the address leading to another murder scene is still a mystery. Isabel's 911 call stands as one of the most disturbing calls ever recorded. Warning: what you are about to hear may be very distressing. And similar to the last section, this part of the series is so, like, visceral, It's one of the, the bit of animation or the bit of voice acting in this voice call that we get are highlights of the series other than the art. Because they're the few moments where there's a human element to the story, or just something deeper to grasp onto than, and then they found the body and it was stabbed 30 times, and then they went in the next room and there was the body inside of an animal's corpse. The animal and the body had been stabbed 37 times, So I'm just going to play it for you in its entirety. It's very good.
What's your emergency? Okay, now, what's the address?
They killed my husband.
Oh, okay, the police are on their way. Do you have somewhere to hide?
I locked myself in the bathroom.
Okay, good. Are you able, do you know they're there?
Yes, please.
Okay, ma'am, the police are on their way. I need you to stay calm for me, okay? What's your name?
Isabel Jackson.
Okay, Isabel, do you have anything to defend yourself with?
Oh my God, they're gonna get it.
The what? Isabel, do you have anything to defend yourself with? Okay, listen, stay calm. Are there any windows in your bathroom? Isabel? Hello? Isabel?
All right, that was crazy. One other thing that someone in the comments mentioned is that Zeke, referencing back to the painting Hide and Zeke, was likely, like, stuck or hiding somewhere in the house or, like, in the walls or whatever, and had to, like, listen to what was happening to his parents, and that the killer left him, like, to die. I don't know how accurate that is, or if there's just going to be more explanation of the painting later, but I thought it would be interesting to bring up because I thought it was a cool idea. The next video is called Meat. We're getting closer to the end of this horror show. Thank you for joining me so far. It's good to have someone with me kind of holding my hand as we go through this, because honestly this one is leaving a worse taste in my mouth than most of the other analog horror series that we've covered. The only other ones that have evoked much of, like, a fear or disgust or horror disturbing response from me have been stuff like the Boiled one, where there's a cognitohazardous element where it's like at the beginning of the video they will tell you, hey, this sound or this thing means, like, the people who have been infected or who have this whatever is being described in the video happen to them right beforehand, they hear this sound, and then it tries to, like, get in your head about it, and then at the very end of the video they play the sound, stuff like that is I find that novel. I think that's interesting, and while this is definitely relying on shock value, it's working. It's shocking, even as someone who's seen a lot of shocking movies and read shocking books and blah, blah, blah. It's still, it's like, ugh. At least it succeeds at that, I guess. Let us continue. This one is called Meat, just like the brick that was shoved in someone's jaw. Let's go. This video is extremely graphic. Over the past week, the number of brutal murders has continued to rise, and apparently the police can do freaking nothing about it. When Dr. Fred Baker failed to appear for work, the police conducted a wellness check only to discover him murdered in his own home. According to neighbors, a dog could be heard barking from inside his house the night before the discovery of Fred's body. Fred was known to live alone with his cat. He never had a dog, and that's why the killer got him, because he was a cat person. The killer would get me too, unfortunately. I will say dogs are cool too, though. As the police entered Fred's house through the breached back door, they were met with a disturbing scene. Evidence of a struggle was discovered in the kitchen. Here, the police would also find a copious amount of Viagra again. It is believed that Fred had been stealing medication from his workplace for quite some time. Fred was lying in his bed with no skin on his head. The bedroom floor was littered with used sandpaper. Oh god, so they used it on the face, right? Is that what it is? Neither the cat nor any signs of a dog could be detected. However, a gruesome painting was found hidden under the bed. This painting seems to depict Fred's cat. This is the painting and its foreboding title. Oh god. And the title is that. Let's get this over with. 2 days later, the body of George White was found in his family house. Again, the neighbors reported hearing barking on the night of the attack. The extent of damage to the body made post-mortem identification nearly impossible. Similar to other recent murders, George's face had been cut off. He had approximately 487 stab wounds. God damn it. 4 of the wounds contained traces of seminal fluid. The category is catch these men. I'll take catch the semen for 300, Alex. During autopsy, several photographs were found inside the body of George White. They had to sift through the 400 stab wounds to find it, but eventually they did. One of the photos was found tucked inside the heart. The second was discovered within the intestines. The last photo was found crumpled up inside the pelvis. And here we can see inside the pelvis. Despite the extensive damage to the photos, police were able to successfully restore them. Here are the photos. This person looks like their teeth are all out. Okay. And that person definitely does have teeth. If you know any of these people, and then we get a phone number. And at a certain point, I feel like I'm getting desensitized. A lot of the images, the disturbing images aren't really doing all that much to me now. Last night, police dispatcher Sarah Stone and her husband Michael were abducted from their residence. The building's basement hatch had been destroyed from the inside, though the entry had been through the front door. Fortunately, Sarah had a security camera installed at her front porch. The camera footage captures the murderers entering the house of Sarah and Michael Stone, ultimately providing the most devastating evidence yet. What you are about to witness is a glimpse at the most violent killers in American history. And then, of course, we need the filler text of this was what was on the security camera. We see a windowsill and a doorway. Nope. We're on a porch, looking out. There's some blurry cars in the background. Suddenly a hand creeps over the white wooden pillar holding the roof over the porch. And a strange figure that looks like something out of a nightmare peeks around for just a second. Then a second figure, Marilyn Manson, comes crawling over the fence and seems to just fall and disappear. All right, my friends, now this is it. We've made it to the moment that you have all been waiting for, the newest entry into the series. You'll notice that after a certain point, we started adding extra segments, which I think definitely improved the watchability of the series. Although sometimes I do miss the simpler days of the 2-minute little reveals with just the paintings. But it does feel like, for a second we ventured into just let's see how awful we can possibly go territory. And then the last couple of videos seem to be reeling that back just a smidgen. But there's still something I haven't told you about yet that makes it pretty terrible still. So you know. Regardless, the next video is the most recent, released only a year ago, and a lot of people say the best video in the entire series. So I'm excited. I'm excited to see what the best this series has to offer is. This one is called Hell. Let's get into it. Last night, police got an anonymous tip about trespassers in an abandoned textile and paint factory. The call had been made from a telephone booth not too far from the site. In a workshop outside the factory, police found a shocking discovery. Body parts from 5 different victims were found inside. Some remains had been sewn together into something resembling clothing. I wonder if that's why the killers looked as strange as they did, if they're like wearing the skin of their victims. Kind of like Buffalo Bill. A set of stairs lead down into what would be dubbed the cage room, also kind of like Buffalo Bill. It was evident that the room had been lived in for a long time. The missing remains of known victims, as well as an unidentifiable body, were found here. The room was oozing with the stench of death. And they censor most of the actual gore this time. A body in a state of severe decay was lying on the mattress. On a table in the room was a camera along with 3 photos. Are we going to get to see the photos? Oh my. Oh my. Huh, that's kinky. A bowl outside the cage was filled with human urine. Inside the cage, the missing remains of Corey and Margaret Beck were found sewn together. Beside the mattress stood a bucket containing several male genitalia. Guys, it's the severed dick bucket! Inside the factory itself, more gruesome discoveries would be made. In what once had been the locker room, 2 bodies were found hanging from the same rope. One of them could be identified as Jim Lee, and the other body was unidentifiable. Deeper inside the factory, police found what will be dubbed the paint room. I wonder what they could find in the paint room. One of them seems to be unfinished. While most are unknown, some of the paintings could be linked back to victims as far as 5 years ago. How have the cops not caught these guys yet? Here are the paintings. Emma's Last Smile, Bloated Betty, Stone Loop, Mark the Machine, Milk Teeth Heath, The Collins, Untitled. In the ceiling of the next room, the missing Jones family were found. A chain had been dragged through their bodies. Oh my god, they were all in different states of decomposition. That's horrible. In the basement of the building, more bodies were found. 4 victims had been partly eaten. The identity of these victims are yet unknown. Here, police also found their colleague, Sarah Stone, and her husband. Their mouths had been sewn into each other's rectal openings. This is what true love looks like, guys, so pay attention. They both had been force-fed rocks. With their mouths sewn to each other's rectal openings, how were they force-fed rocks? Going even further down, the police entered the sewer system. Here, the police found what would end up being the turning point of the case. Oh my god. A bunch of text on a wall. You've been out to hell, you never come back. The phrase, once you've been to hell, you never come back, is something Tina Rosenberg said in an interview not long after surviving her attack. Here is the clip from the interview.
Do you think that you've recovered from this ordeal?
I'll never recover. I'll never be the same. Those people took me to hell. And once you've been in hell, you never come back.
Officer Nathan Cole was the first to respond since he was in the area.
Let me see your hands right now! Do not move! Do not move! Just stop! Let me see your hands right now! Let me see your hands. Do not move. You understand?
Then as the body cam footage ends, for a second it starts to morph into a face. It feels like the killers almost want to be caught at this point. Tina's eyes and ears had been punctured with a pair of knitting needles. Oh god, I hate that. She was not aware that she was being rescued and kept screaming for 20 minutes. Tina's mother, Sienna Rosenberg, had been dismembered in the kitchen. That's what the bloody pile was before that was censored. The autopsy revealed that the killer behind the mask was former police officer Bill Collins. Dead, police are still not sure why his DNA was found with his family's remains. He obviously faked his death. Mona Lanius was apprehended by Officer Nathan Cole. She's confessed to more than 100 murders and is now awaiting trial. Holy shit, that's the end. It's not the very end of the series, though. There's still supposedly one more tape coming. It was supposed to come in 2025. It was supposed to come this year, but it hasn't yet. So, who knows when that will happen. But when it does, maybe we can cover it. That was crazy. Although it continued to do the same thing that the whole series has been doing the entire time, the body cam footage was pretty cool. And just like the increased production value was cool. And then they finally caught them. The discovery that it was a police officer the entire time makes sense as to why that we've been eluding capture from the police for so long, just having inner workings of how the police operate at the time. I've seen some comments complain or ask about why more DNA, more tests aren't being done on the crime scenes, but there is a lot of evidence within the series that this is taking place either in the 90s or something. It gives off certain vibes, the 80s, the 90s, and the technology at the time most likely wasn't as advanced. I'm very glad that they finally apprehended someone. That's a good place for me to finish. I always hate it when I cover a series that's not done yet and I have to get through some of it and then just stop for a year or whatever. I mean, it's cool that there are series that are constantly in production, but you might wonder sometimes why I cover mostly older analog horror, and it is because of that. What's interesting is one of the killers actually sounds kind of young. Not sure what to make of that. And that's Urban Spooks The Painter series. I thought it was interesting. I didn't hate it, the series on its own, I think is decent. It's not fantastic or anything. If you're easily disturbed by stuff like this, you shouldn't be watching it, obviously. Personally, this is just me personally. When I look at horror including essay or anything really horribly graphic of that nature, you can always see whether it's relevant to the plot. You can see if it's not even that it's relevant to the plot, but there are times when it feels like it's overused, or it almost feels like a person who has no experience with something is trying to use it as a marketing tactic of the most shocking, if that makes sense. And I'm not trying to imply that Urban does or doesn't have experience with it. I have no idea. It's none of our business. But there's one thing about it that really rubs me the wrong way, and I'll tell you what that is. But first, I just want to say The Painters, it's fine. It's not great. There's some very cool parts, but the writing and then especially the weird behavior of the artist does not elevate it at all. I really like the simplicity of the main concept. I like how outrageous it is at times. I also like how funny it was. I wasn't expecting that. People talk about it like it's the devil, the series itself, not regarding the artist, but just the series itself. People talk about it like it's the most horrible thing you'll ever see. And I don't know, a lot of it felt so over the top that it was funny to me, but maybe there's just something wrong with me. But the little puns in the names of the paintings, that was pretty silly. But seeing some of the other comments that the creator has made regarding stuff like not liking analog horror at all to begin with, I start to wonder if this was mainly created to sell prints of their art. Which, fair play. In fact, at one point, Urban sold merch of the toy Cory painting. Super gross, weird merch to sell of your victim character. I thought only the mouth-washing people were able to do that. Sorry, I'm joking. Don't kill me, guys. Apologies. But yeah, I think making merchandise that depicts your child victim of like SA stuff sums up this series pretty well. At least it ended strong. I thought the very last video was very cool. To be honest, I kind of feel like I feel like on one hand people overreact to the series itself because it's, you know, it's all right. And then on the other hand, the creator does come across as a bit of an asshole. So who knows? That's The Painter. I'm not sure if I'll cover it if another video of theirs comes out, but I'll probably watch it just to see how it ends. Let me know what you think down below in the comments. Let me know if there's any other extreme analog horror that I should check out. I like having disturbing themes in my horror. All types of horror is cool, but if you've been a fan of this channel for a while, you'll know I cover stuff like a Serbian film. Sometimes it feels like here on Horror YouTube, there are other content creators and people who just like, they're like, I like super fucked up and awful disturbing media, but only if it is in one of these few categories. And if it deviates from these categories, then it's going too far. And it should be like censored or withheld, or the artist is a bad person automatically. Obviously, this series here was a bad example of, like, for me to use as an example when talking about this. But in general, I don't believe those things. I think that artists should be able to make whatever they want to make. If it depicts violence of any nature, including of a sexual nature, if it depicts, you know, horrible cutting open a pig and putting a human body inside of it, they should be able to do that. It's a free country. It's one of the cool things, right? Let me know what you guys think down below. Thank you for letting me talk about stuff like this. I appreciate you for being here. Thank you for watching. Before I go, I'd like to thank our new patron, Kim, and also thanks to all the other patrons: Rue, Nervous, Birch, Constance, Capulet, Delphi, Joe, Juno, Bug, Linty, Paperclip, Danny, Gun, Geek, Draco, Kyojin, Opossum, Dayton, Dark Beast, Bile, Coyote, Cuba, Bat Noise, Phoenix, Bees, Lori, Amelia, Panflute, Thomas, Justin, Lou, Tom, Dave, Elkie, Stardrop, Nude, Joseph, Mr. Fox, George, Boris, Joe, and Alex.